Putting type on a document is just the first step. Let's explore the options available for fine-tuning with Photoshop's typography controls. We're beginning this lesson with the document we had open from the previous lesson. If yours is not on screen, you can find this in the Chapter 7 folder. Simply open the file titled New Type. We're going to create a new document. We're going to go up to the File menu, select New, and in the New dialog box, we want our new document to have the same dimensions and resolution as our new type TIFF file. So under Preset, instead of default Photoshop size, we're going to select their file name. Photoshop will list all your open files here down at the bottom of this list. Now we're guaranteed to have two files of matching size. I'm going to separate these files into their own floating document windows because I want you to be able to see these two side by side. I'm going to reduce the size of this to fit it a little better into the window, and the same thing for our new document. What we're going to do now is copy a layer from one file to the other. So we're going to click to activate our new type file, and we're going to go to the Layers panel and simply click on this top type layer, drag it over our new layer, and before we release the mouse, we're going to hold the Shift key. That will align it exactly the way it looks in our original file. And there we go. We now have our type layer in our brand new file. We can close this new type file and we don't need to save it. I'll make the size of this a little bit bigger. And let's increase the type a bit. That looks good. Now, how can we make adjustments to this type? We're going to go to the Window menu and select Paragraph. That opens up a paragraph and a character panel. We're going to look at Paragraph first. This first row of icons determines how our paragraph is going to be aligned. The default is a left align. If I click this center, our paragraph is now centered. And if we click right, it is now right aligned. What does it align to? Well, I'll click inside here. It aligns to our bounding text box. I'm going to move this entire panel down. Get it out of the way. That's much better. What we can also control in this paragraph tab is the justification. I'm going to set this back to a left align. Right now, we have a left aligned paragraph, meaning that all the characters are flush along the left end of the box, but they're staggered along the right. If we click this first justification icon, our words now flow from the left to the right edge of the text box. This second icon will leave our full justification, but the bottom line of the paragraph, it will center it instead. So you can see that change to the bottom line. Our third option here is again going to retain full justification, but it is going to right align the very last line of the paragraph. Our final option here is simply going to take that last line and stretch it out all the way from left to right. We're going to set it back to our initial state. And now we're going to look at the indent features. If I click here on this left indent, the default is at 0. If I type in 40, the whole paragraph indents 40 points from the left edge. I'll set that back to 0. If we move over here to the right, we can change the indent along the right. If I type in a 40 here, we now have a 40-point inset from the right side of our text box. Reset this. We can also choose to indent just the first line of the paragraph. I'll select this and type in 40, and you see just the first line of that paragraph is indented. Again, we'll reset it back to 0. These final two options at the bottom are our before and after spaces. When we have multiple paragraphs, these are going to determine how much space is in between each paragraph. To take a look at that, I need to open up this box. I'll drag it down so now we have the end of our first paragraph, the beginning of our second paragraph. If I click anywhere in the first paragraph and change this after space, we're going to see a difference in the spacing between our first and second paragraph. There we go. If I hit 40, we increase that after space. instead of increasing the after space of the top paragraph, I could click in the second paragraph and change the before space. If I change that to 40, we'll see the same visual effect. This second paragraph is set to a right align. I'm going to reset this to a left align paragraph. Let's take a look at the character formatting options. We're going to click on the Character tab. Now the options here are only going to take effect on areas of text that we manually select. So the first thing we're going to do is select some text. I'll choose the first few words of this second paragraph. Now a lot of these should look familiar. We can change the typeface here. We can change the font style if we want to make it italic or make it bold. We can change the type size. So if we wanted just these first 4 words to be a larger type size, I'll simply click on the icon and I could change this from 30 to 40. I'll go and change this back. To the right we have our leading option. This controls the spacing between lines within a paragraph. In most cases you're going to be best off leaving it to auto, because that way Photoshop will adjust the leading based on your type size. Below leading we have our tracking option. This increases spacing between both letters and words. So if I start with the default value of 0 and increase it, you can see that I now have more space within the area of text that was selected. I'll set this back to 0. Kerning is similar to tracking, except it only increases the letter spacing. So we're going to place the cursor in between 2 letters, click, and then I'll simply increase the space here. We'll go up to 160, but you can see that the spacing is only increased between the I and the D. We'll set this back to its default of metrics. At the bottom we have vertical and horizontal scaling. We'll start with vertical scaling first. If I select the word considering here and change vertical scaling to, let's say, 150%, you can see now it's going to stretch that word. The same thing will happen if we go and change the horizontal scaling. It will widen that word. The last option here is baseline shift. Now this can come in handy. I'll select this entire first line. Baseline shift will move a line of words up or down. So if I click to select it and increase the value in the baseline shift box, the entire line has shifted up. I can bring the line down by entering a negative number and make it shift down closer to the second line. I'll put this back to 0. You can see that Photoshop gives us tons of options to change not only paragraphs, but individual characters.